Remember this phrase, cash flow makes you rich and equity makes you wealthy. So many people want to get into this world of real estate and they want to become millionaires and they want to make a lot of money. And they're so focused on cash flow and how much money is going into their pocket every single month that I'm tired of it. And so I wanted to sit with you today and teach you the mechanics of a real estate investment, whether it's short-term or whether it's long-term. This is a framework that I learned from Bigger Pockets that's been very important to me in my journey, and I hope that it helps you. And hopefully by the end of this video, you'll see cash flow is pretty cool, but what I'm about to walk you through will blow your mind, okay? So let's jump into it. First and foremost, what is cash flow? Cash flow is your revenue on a rental property minus your expenses, and that will equal your profit. Okay, that's cash flow right there. Now, what I want to do in today's episode is contextualize everything I'm about to tell you with the first home I ever purchased in Los Angeles, California. And that house cost me $624,000. We'll talk more about this a little bit later. But in general, this property, give or take, has made me about $2,000 a month in cash flow, which equates to about $24,000 a year. Most people would see this and say, whoa, that's life-changing. That's all I care about. That's all I want. And I understand that because if you do this 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times, maybe you can quit your 9-to-5 job, which is what all the TikTok gurus and all the people that are like, arbitrage, cash flow, you can make $2,000 cash flow, man. And it's like, okay, well, you know, there's something to that. But once you start looking at the other levers here, you'll start to see, yeah, pretty cool, but there's more to this real estate stuff. And this is really arbitrage, by the way, on the real estate side. This is basically the only benefit you get from arbitrage. You don't get 2, 3, and 4 from arbitrage, and you'll see why in a second. But $24,000 a year from this property, pretty good. And what that really equates to, because I'm going to contextualize this over 5 years, is $120,000 over the course of 5 years. That's how much money I'll be able to put in my pocket, which is not nothing. That's pretty good. 120K, that's basically like that's a 6-figure salary right there. But now we get into the second aspect, the second lever, if you will, of real estate that is really just so much better in so many ways, and that's appreciation. Now, what is appreciation? This is how much your home goes up in value every single year. Now, I looked up the data. On average, the amount of appreciation that the United States has seen comes out to between 3.8 and 3.9%. I'm just going to round down to 3%. All right, 3% is the average appreciation on a home in America on any given year. Sometimes it might be 1, sometimes it might be -1, sometimes it might be 5%, but in general, we're looking at 3%. And so when you look at this $624,000 house that I purchased, over the course of 5 years, it will have gone from $624,000 to $723,387, which equates to just under $100,000 in equity. I did the math before just to keep this nice and tight. We're looking at $99,387 in equity, roughly, over the course of 5 years. So yes, so far, pound for pound, in 5 years, cash flow is much better than this $99,000 figure. But hey, we're not competing against each other here. It's not, we're not going toe to toe. The idea is with the real estate investment, you're adding all of these different things together, and that's what really gets you into this really powerful play of wealth building. Then we get into number 3 here, which to me is where it all starts to really come together, because that is what we call debt pay down, aka equity. What is equity? Equity is how much money you make on a property when you sell it. You know, if you buy this property for $624,000, you have 0 equity. But over the course of, let's say, 5 years, you have tenants in place that are paying you your mortgage, whether it's long-term or short-term. And every single month, your mortgage is basically going from $624,000 to $623,000 to $622,000 to $620,000 every single month. And over the course of 5 years, you will have actually paid down your mortgage $68,100 $68,155, which is pretty nice. I'm going to delete this here just to keep numbers simple here. But $68,155. That's how much you will have paid down this, meaning if you were to sell your property, that's the paycheck that you walk away with. Now, where it gets interesting is your property is going up in value. So remember, I said this goes up to $723,000 over the course of 5 years. Plus, you've brought this down from 68,000. You brought this number, 624,000, down 68,155. And so there's this giant spread. And the longer you own this investment, the bigger that spread gets, meaning the bigger that paycheck gets when you're at the closing table. And then we get to the fourth and final benefit, which is the tax bennies. Now, the IRS tax code is written for real estate professionals, and in general, from a tax benefit standpoint, if I were to just do regular depreciation, I would lower my tax bill by about $53.49 every year, which is not bad. That's pretty good. However, I operate this as a short-term rental, and I'm able to do what's called bonus depreciation. And this is really the most beautiful aspect of short-term rentals. Because I materially participate in the management of this home, I'm able to get a cost segregation report and really drive this number up. And by the way, if you want a cost segregation report, you can get one over at strcostseg.com. That's my company. We're the most affordable. We're the best in the industry by far. And I'll give you an example of how much a cost segregation report saved me on this property in taxes. I was able to do what's called bonus depreciation or accelerated depreciation. And as a result, I was able to lower my tax bill by $68,155. Now, I could go that route, or I could take the straight line if this is a long-term rental, and that comes out to about $25,000. But because it's a short-term rental, I get this right here. So it really starts to come together in a really beautiful way because, I'm just looking at my notes right now. This debt paydown number, it's close, but it's not exactly. The debt paydown number was $61,961. Sorry, I repeated that 2 times. Close enough though, you can see how I made that difference. So now, where does this really bring us? Why is this so important? Well, when you start adding all of these together, you can see that over the course of 5 years, sure, you make $120,000. That's not bad. We're all pretty happy about that, right? But you also make $99,387 in appreciation, plus $61,961 in debt paydown, plus my accelerated depreciation here, which comes out to $68,155. And when you add all of that up, dun dun dun, I know. This whole anti-retention editing thing has me sweating because I'm like, typically we could just edit to the good stuff, but that's not what we're doing on today's episode. When you add all of that up, $349,503. That's how much I've contributed to my net worth as a result of buying this house right here. And of this $349,000, only $120,000 of it came from the cash flow. Meaning that the other, let's say, I don't know, I think it's 229, something like that. The other 229,000 came from the other 3 levers, which were tax benefits, debt pay down, and appreciation. And so as you can see, those heavily outweigh the cash flow. Now, again, it's not a competition, but I just want you to understand that it's actually when it all comes together, it's a beautiful thing. Where it gets really interesting is that I gave you this over the course of 5 years, but really, this property today, over the course of the last 7 or 8 years that I've owned it, is actually worth closer to $1.2 million. Pretty nuts. So it's actually gone up a lot more than that $723,000 figure I gave you. And what's even crazier is I've done some other real estate investments with this property that I skipped through. Obviously, I couldn't walk you through all of that, but the actual equity I have in this house is actually $525,000, roughly. So here's where it gets really interesting. This property I bought for $624,000, and because I lived in it for the first couple of years, I was able to actually only put 3.5% and use what's called an FHA loan. Now, $624,000. My down payment on this was roughly $21,840. It was a little less because I had some credits and stuff. But I guess the title of this video should probably be how I turned $21,840 into $525,000. And that's just from one property. And imagine if you did this 10 times over the course of your life. When you retire, you'd have 10 properties that would make you a multi-millionaire in the world of real estate. And what I want you to take away from today's episode is a lot of people will watch this and say, well, you got in when it was easy and blah, blah, blah. Well, I got in. And if I buy a house this year, I can tell the same story 7 years from now or 5 years from now. And if I buy it 1 year from now, I can still tell the same story. The math might be a little bit different, but the framework is the same. Every real estate millionaire and multimillionaire that I know, this same story happened for every single one of them, whether they bought in 2008, 10, 12, 13, 17, 2020, 2021, it doesn't really matter. So my advice to you is whether you're looking to get started or if you're scared, whatever it is, just take action and buy a property and be patient. And if you're patient, then one day you're also gonna be able to tell your whiteboard story too. And hopefully this has been helpful. And look, I like cash flow, but hopefully after today's video, you understand why I like the other benefits equally, if not more. So if you like today's video, if you like this format, do me a huge favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment, maybe telling your own story with the property that you purchased, and map it out for everybody to see so that other people can see that it's not just me that did okay on one house, but really just the entire real estate population. Cool? All right, I'll catch you on the next episode of Raw Built. Bye.